have been gatekeeping a trick. A trick to what, you ask? Well, technically, none of you asked, but I will not let that stop me, and I will, in fact, give my unsolicited opinion. A trick to sounding like you have got your life completely figured out. There are three main steps to this trick. Step 1. Do not actually have life figured out. That's optional and, to be frank, a bit boring. Step 2. Be born in a normal Indian family where your mom is a dentist, your dad is an orthodontist, and your grandfather is a physician. Now, an assumption has been made, or maybe even a statement of fact. You will also become a doctor. Step 3. Never talk about this situation. You becoming a doctor isn't really up for discussion. It's like gravity, almost. You don't discuss gravity, you don't question gravity, you simply fall in its direction. Greetings everyone, I am Aadhya Nadig, a grade 12 humanities student, and I will unfortunately have to break your hearts. This isn't really a trick. This used to be my life till I found my true passion. And the funniest part, I didn't really have an issue with it. Not because I wanted to become a doctor or because I was obsessed with biology, but simply because I hadn't yet found my calling. When people talk about being forced into their careers, they usually mean pressure from their families, relatives, and society. But what if the career path laid out for me by my loved ones is perfectly reasonable and was done so while keeping my best interests in mind? Ironically, the thing that would completely change my life later on was sitting right in front of me this whole time. In second grade, my mom made me join a keyboard class. I started off with this tiny keyboard filled with pink buttons, which made it look less like a musical instrument and more like a toy. After around a year, my parents upgraded me to the adult keyboard, the one you probably imagined when I first mentioned the instrument. I still remember my third grade hands stretching to their absolute fullest, trying to hit multiple notes at once. But to be honest, I hated it. If there was an Olympic event for making up excuses not to practice, younger me would have brought home gold. And in my defense, I was a third grader who could not have realistically sat down to practice the keyboard when I could simply turn on the TV, eat Maggie, and watch cartoons. In fifth grade, my mother tried once again and enrolled me in singing classes. Now, singing I liked much more than simply staring at a keyboard wondering why anyone would voluntarily practice scales for hours. But it wasn't really life-altering. Then in 8th grade, I got a call. I had auditioned for a singing group headed by a well-known musician in Gujarat and had completely forgotten about it. But they called and they wanted me in. I still remember my first ever group singing session for a major event. It was like a whole new world of rags, tals, and chords opening up for me. I walked into this giant hall filled with professional singers holding their microphones and musicians who had their instruments set up. I had never been in a room full of people who were so skilled and so deeply in love with music. And the most magical part of the evening was when we all sang together. That was when I realized. It was like a mental click. I wanted to pursue the art form that had been at the periphery of my life this whole time. And what struck me the most wasn't just their ability to execute tans and alaps almost perfectly, but their passion for music. I too wanted to be engulfed with that sort of passion. Till now, music was something I did and not who I was. That gradually began to change. I started waking up at 5 in the morning just to do riyaz. And let me make one thing clear, I am not and have never been a morning person. But I did it. Not because someone told me to, but because I wanted to give my all to the art form that I had started to love. Most people assume that when you find something you're passionate about, everything else just takes a back seat. But in my case, the patience required to sit and practice one single taan for hours helped me sit with the same dedication to understand a difficult academic concept. Remember the trick I was talking about in the beginning? Turns out there is no such trick. Nobody wakes up one day knowing what they want to be passionate about. Sometimes all it takes is a group of singers singing a beautiful musical masterpiece to make you realize that the path you've always known isn't the only one. And for me, that path was music. It made me realize that what matters isn't whether the path is stable enough, but whether it makes me feel alive. Thank you.